Kashyyyk is the homeworld to one of Star Wars' most identifiable races. The forested world houses a people who live among the branches whose culture has been exploited by galactic powers in the past, and to whom loyalty and family are the greatest bonds. The Wookiees. Around 2.2 to 2.5 meters in height, the Wookiees are mammalian humanoids most recognizable by their thick layer of shaggy fur that provides insulation against both extreme colds and heats. The species are omnivores, dining on both the plentiful wild fruits and vegetables of their homeworld and the abundance of animal life. They seldom wear excessive clothing as their fur protects them and acts as camouflage for their forested environment. Their fur continues to grow and grey with age, especially around the face of males. Most commonly it comes in shades of brown, varying from near black to almost blonde, but genuine black and occasional silver variants do exist. What little clothing they do wear is often for practical purposes such as armour or carrying things, therefore bandoliers and straps are common apparel. The Wookiees also create ornamentation from native materials such as wooden and metal beads and feathers woven into their fur. They had sharp claws for climbing and would probably make for deadly weapons, but a cultural taboo prevented them from being used for anything except climbing. The average lifespan of a Wookiee was around 400 years. The planet that supports them is interwoven with their culture to an unusual degree, or rather its native flora and fauna. So before we get ahead of ourselves, let's look at Kashyyyk, shall we? The planet itself is in the mid-rim, Mataranor sector along the Randon Run trade route. As such, it has always been a contested hotspot for galactic trade and a key location to hold many other neighbouring systems, a fact that has served to both prosper and debilitate the Wookiees. The planet is known by several aliases: G5623, Edian, or Kashyyyk with a single Y. It has 3 moons and an abundance of plant life, giving rise to its designation as a forest world, much like Endor or Yavin. The majority of the foliage on the planet is dominated by a type of tree known as the Roshia, which itself is broken down into many different subspecies and strains, each with markedly different growth. The most impressive of which were those that grew in the heart of the forests and could be kilometres in height, and many millennia old. Others resembled mangroves with tendril-like branches supporting a thicker trunk, and others of even more alien design. Many of these trees could have hollows made in them, and their branches intertwined in close proximity, even fusing at points. This led to a network of branches, especially inland, that created natural paths suspended from the ground. It's in these canopies that the Wookiees settled and created their homes, adding to the structures to form elaborate tree houses. The largest networks of branches played host to the cities, such as Arathaka, Thikiana, Kachiro, Rubakroro. I think I'm pronouncing those right. The native tongue of Kashyyyk was Shyriiwook, translated as the language of the tree people. I guess this means that Wook means tree. There are other dialects, Zakzik and Thikaran, and many Wookiees learned Galactic Basic, though their specialised vocal cords prevented them from mimicking many other languages. Likewise, Shyriiwook was learnable by others, but many species are only able to approximate the tones, due to the harsh growls and guttural sounds. Their appearance and growling language often leads outsiders to see them as bestial and lumbering oafs, but this couldn't be further from the truth. They are a proficient species with tools and make skilled mechanics and crafters, forging anything from small intricate jewellery to building hyperdrives and planet-killing superweapons, though that last one was under duress, and we'll get to that later. They unsurprisingly often used wood in their creations, crafting structures out of the Roshia trees and even incorporating it wherever possible in vehicle, weapon and starship design. The trademark Wookiee weapon was the bowcaster, a combination of an energy weapon and a railgun, and one that was customised to an individual as it was crafted by hand. To them, Community, clan and family are all very close and bound by honour to look out for one another. This honour system has many idiosyncrasies, but ultimately boils down to putting others before yourself. This comes naturally to a Wookiee, as they are very empathetic creatures, the suffering of others distressing them more often than harm to themselves. Their family consists of the immediate and extended blood relatives, their surrounding clan, and their honour family. The honour family are friends who have been accepted into a Wookiee structure, akin to being brought into a medieval house, but are treated as brothers and sisters to the Wookiees in question, the most famous example being a certain smuggler and his co-pilot. This compassion and empathy does not extend to those outside of their familial structure, especially to the individuals inflicting harm. Wookiees are quick to enrage, likely a survival mechanism, and are fearsome in combat, shrugging off stun blasts with ease and able to throw around smaller species. It varies from individual to individual, but Wookiees have been known to exploit this reputation to their advantage where applicable. This means that stories of Wookiees ripping people's arms out of their sockets with their immense strength are true. There are other aspects to their code of honour, such as the aforementioned taboo about using their claws in combat, and the complex matter of a life debt, where a Wookiee whose life was saved must repay the debt by aiding their saviour. Wookiees are also generally superstitious and have tales of spiritual hauntings, such as the Black Forest of their homeworld, the site a location of a crashed alien vessel. It doesn't appear that Wookiees have a true religion, but these tales suggest a sense of spirituality. Their cultural attachment to the Roshir trees itself could be seen as bordering on worship, but it's honestly more of an immense respect for a practical understanding of the natural balance of their world, and the desire not to upset it. Tales of hauntings are also likely to stem from stories of how dangerous the Shadowlands are, the floor level of the dense parts of Kashyyyk's forest, home to all sorts of predators. We don't get to see many Wookiee craft outside of Legends material, but this is due to more their history than any lack of technical knowledge. The fact that they've always been positioned along a busy trade route means that there have always been ships coming and going from Kashyyyk, and therefore a method of transport readily available for any Wookiee looking to set off into the wider galaxy. They often loaned their services as mechanics, mercenaries and the like for generations. It wasn't unusual for a Wookiee, even a parent, to leave Kashyyyk for a decade or two to forge their own adventures. This is likely because of the intense trust they had in their family to raise their children. Unfortunately, this cultural makeup led them to be easily subjugated despite their ferocious prowess in battle. Their empathetic nature led to hostage-taking being a surefire way to secure an individual's cooperation, and when the Galactic Empire had one under its thumb, it was easier to leverage the next into chains, and so on. Their power and skills were utilised by the Empire into creating all sorts of projects, and captured Wookiees were often treated terribly, killed, treated as monsters for entertainment by bored soldiers. Inhibitor chips helped to placate the species further, and eventually Kashyyyk in its entirety fell to the Empire as a slave planet. The only Wookiees who escaped the reaches of the Empire often found themselves involved in unsavoury practices, such as criminal activities, to avoid detection. The Empire's treatment of them as beasts did much to harm public perception of them, and they were frequently hunted for sports and their pelts. Naturally, this led many to become stalwart allies to the Rebel Alliance, and eventually they were liberated from the ashes of the fallen Empire by the New Republic, having their way of life restored to them once again, and joining the galactic scene in earnest, and they became a more frequent sight off-world. Their political structure too was all but destroyed by their enslavement, but originally they operated as a monarchy who oversaw planetary decisions and ruled over the chieftains of the many clans. Wookiee exports include much of their crafted works. The inclusion of wood as the material appeals to many who prefer the organic look and feel. Although Kashyyyk was subjugated by the Empire, much of their actual food and prepared meals were not available to the common citizens, partly as Wookiees are able to consume much rougher, unprocessed foods that your standard humanoid couldn't, but likely also because the Empire wanted to distance the species from the perception of a cultivated life, though the Wookiees had a reputation for producing incredibly potent alcoholic drinks. Thickian, Kortic brandy, Garmol brandy, Kraken and Akaragam brandy. So I guess Chewbacca was a brandy guy. The Wookiees overall may be a bit unpredictable and intimidating to an outsider to their circles of trust, but if you don't antagonise one and show to be a compassionate individual yourself, you're likely to have nothing to fear from them, although there are outliers in any society. Loyalty is a key factor in their lifestyle, with favours and aid being repaid, forging strong relationships. If these bonds are tested and found resilient, you may find yourself with a friend for life, despite the passage of many years. Unless you're a Transdotion. Thanks for listening. The Wookiees are presented as both ferocious and sympathetic creatures in Star Wars lore, and their treatment at the hands of the Empire exemplifies how horrific a regime it became at its worst. So there's actually not going to be a vote for the next episode this time, as the vote is so close, only 4 points between them, that I'm going to go and do the Dalek Index next week anyway. Edit. As I check this while editing now, the Daleks have actually overtaken by 1 point, so I guess it's good that I'm doing both anyway. So, until next week's episode, thanks for watching. I've been Rick. Thanks again, and goodbye. Alright, I've got to try once just to see how it sounds.